cutting edge guests, awesome, uncensored, jaw-dropping information, plus funny memes, good deeds, and loads of laughter. Kind of have it all. Ladies and gentlemen, if your soul is awake, then welcome, because you're in the right place. Well, good day to you, ladies and gentlemen, and boys and girls. Welcome back to the Sovereign Soul Program, a show which stands for love, levity, and liberty for the people, all of humanity. Because after all, love is the greatest power everywhere. And laughter is the best medicine, especially covering serious topics and all matters, ancient, current, and quantum, right? Absolutely. It's a mantra. Our mascot, the Blinged Buddha, he fully subscribes to it as he fires red pills from his 9mm. I'm your host, Brad Wozni. I'm grateful to you, divine lions and lionesses, for tuning in and turning in too. I served my country at the federal level as a Canadian infantry soldier. I served it at the provincial level as a wildfire ranger, leaping out of helicopters to fight forest fires. I've been part of the corporate rat race where shortly after 9/11, I stood at ground zero as rescue efforts went on. Then I was at the Pentagon 72 hours later. I'm fortunate now to have become a Reiki master in 2015 by leveraging the infinite source of the cosmic and our creator's power. I follow my soul's purpose in this incarnation, which is to help uplift humanity's consciousness with song and story. And for those of you who are unaware, I did go to the public indoctrination camp known as Wilfrid Laurier University to take an honors economics degree with a minor in American political science. Usually I say we have an incredible show here for you today. It depends on your perspective. There is great ways out, and the importance of this show is to share with you the great awakening that is happening around the world from one standpoint, and on the other standpoint is to make people aware of what they need to do if they haven't done anything yet to guard themselves financially. Last week's show, I said in the one prior, somewhere around 7 to 14 days, we'd see a massive collapse. We've been talking about it for months, ever since we started this show. I've been saying it to friends and family for about 3 years off and on. You can watch residential mortgage-backed securities and commercial mortgage-backed securities debt. Not something that's fun to check into, but you can certainly see the debt that's being bought by the Fed in the States. And being a Canadian, really the epicenter of the economy, North America, and the global economy, one of the epicenters of it is the American machine, the might of it from a capitalist standpoint. Well, here's the thing. We are about to see that collapse happen a lot sooner than they've been reporting. We really feel, many of us feel that it's any day, any hour now. We know the economy has been propped up. We have seen so much of it from the printing of the money. And I want to share with you a few things before we jump into the video for today. And coming up on Saturday, I have Louis Herms from the Truth Tour 2. Make sure you tune in for that. He has incredible information to share, as well as where you can sign up and check out one or all of the 17 city stops with some amazing speakers who've voluntarily and financed their own way from around parts of the globe and the United States and Canada to speak to people. It's a great way to connect with everybody. We have a Rumble channel and we have a Telegram channel, brand new. You can go to our Telegram, The Sovereign Soul. Definitely sign up there to stay up to date. It's a great way to connect with people since big tech censorship has shut me down and is shutting down and prohibiting our content getting out on the social platforms, even YouTube as well. And you can check us out on Rumble. Every show lives censorship free so far on Rumble, and that is The Sovereign Soul Show on Rumble. So check those out. Spotify just pulled down one of our podcasts because we were talking about star seeds in 15 dimensions. What does that have to do with the economy? Pretty much everything, because it speaks to the fact that this is a galactic war. And we're going to talk about NESARA, GESARA, the signs of it that have already watching this move forward. And I'll get to that toward the latter end of the show here with you today. So let me just move over to share with you, number one, where we are in the true inflationary standpoint. I've had Dr. Kirk Elliott on the show many times for those of you who have continued to watch, and he has always gone back and said we adjust for the core CPI of the index in the 1990s before Clinton changed the definition of it. And we have seen inflation more than 20%. 24% in unemployment is what we have in America right now. And in addition to that, here is the inflation breakdown by month. Well, and here you can see it with another funny meme. Whoever created this, we're so appreciative of you. But the fact is, it's also a little bit scary for people. You know, with the households, we are looking at an incredible amount of inflation on a monthly basis. Look, just for the first 8 months of this year in the United States, January 2022, the monthly inflation was 7.5%, then 7.9, then 8.5, then 8.3, then 8.6, then June, 9.1% inflation, July, an additional 8.5% inflation, and in August, an additional 8.3% inflation. We've got a great meme for you that kind of summarizes this. Let me just move to that right now. It's one of these great Seinfeld ones, right? Or Jerry's asking Kramer, what's going on in there? If anybody has seen any of the news, it's kind of hard not to dismiss it these days with what's coming out on every platform, from Getter, True Social, and Twitter, you name it. Biden's administration said they are celebrating and having parties at the White House for reducing inflation. Yet here we have an absolute tumble in the markets. Just today, here, Thursday, September 15th, another massive tumble in the markets in crypto. Let's move over to that right now. Okay, so, and here you have inflation just with gasoline. These are figures from this year, 8 months, up 25%, groceries 13%, utilities 33%. So the average inflation in the United States alone is 24%. Had shared on my show last week, there's a woman, a cafe owner in the United Kingdom, who had reported a $14,000 utility bill last year, and this year over $45,000, pounds, British pounds. So she's going to be forced to close her cafe because of the utilities and the manufactured energy crisis. All right, so here we are looking at U.S. mortgage rates. Now, this is exactly what Dr. Elliott, from the very first show we did here on the Sovereign Soul Show, stated. They are going to increase interest rates, the Federal Reserve of the United States, by at least 10 times this year, because they had announced it in January. Why is it shocking to people now who either did not pay attention or did not want to, when U.S. mortgage rates have climbed above 6%, first time since 2008. This is on Bloomberg. Here's another one on Bloomberg. The global recession looms amid broadest rate hike in 5 decades, the World Bank says. Now, you can look at real estate, as I mentioned in the beginning, to see what is about to happen in the markets, because the effect from the consumer spending or lack thereof. And here we are, Market Watch. Just 5 weeks ago, they signaled this dramatic increase. Foreclosure filings are up more than 150%. Here's what that tells us about the housing market. I don't even think you need to even go any further than this, right? Do you? Here we've got Fed supersized inflation. Listen to this clip from yesterday on the news in Idaho.
Market mortgage rates just went up above 6% for the first time since 2008. Well, news specialist Lad Egan is live with what this means for Utah. Lad.
Dan, according to the Mortgage Bankers Association, the 30-year fixed-rate mortgage just went to 6.01%. That's double what it was last year and marks the first time since the Great Recession 15 years ago that rates have gone above 6%.
I would say we are in a housing recession in terms of activities.
Deon Eskich with the Kempsey Gardner Policy Institute says the rapid change in interest rates is creating buyer uncertainty and hesitation.
Especially for those buyers that are on the fence of affordability. 1 week they can qualify for a mortgage, the next week they can't, depending on if their rates aren't locked in.
The impact? Potential buyers sitting on the sidelines, lowering the demand for mortgages. Eskich says 80% of all mortgages in Utah have rates at 4% or lower.
Would you want to get rid of your low interest rates if you're not totally dissatisfied with your current housing? So the incentive to move right now for a lot of existing.
The general mood of the buyers.
Well, you kind of get the rest of it. Let's move on here to their posting that they predict. This is today. This is just before starting the show. Redfin predicts the sharpest turn in the housing market since the 2008 crash. Now, we all remember, most of us, 2008. What happened? Well, leading into a weekend, kind of like where we are right now, folks, leading into a weekend, the entire financial markets, the global financial markets, turned on a dime. People went to bed on a Thursday night, woke up the next Monday morning, and they had issues. And some of them couldn't get any money out of the banks. And then there was a bank bailout package that was rushed in. Well, Gregory Mannarino last week, as I showed you on the program here with the economic update, had shared the information that had been publicly made available that they are talking about at the White House, a bank bailout. How does that sound for everybody around the world? Banks getting the bailouts. Because of record inflation. Let's go to Dr. Kirk Elliott right now and see his most recent update. All right, here's what he sent over to us, his clients, this morning.
Into this crash, right? American consumers now have $1.1 trillion worth of credit card. 1.1 trillion. We talked last week about Bank of America and the expected 1 million adjustable rate mortgages that are coming due, let alone add to that Wells Fargo, Citi, Capital One, Chase, HSBC, US Bank, everybody else. They won't be able to refinance because they won't be able to qualify because banks are low on liquidity, interest rates are going up, people's incomes are lower. So just how low are people's incomes going? So another report that just came out, post-inflation, post-tax household income is dropping. So what does that mean after, when you add inflation in, when you add the taxes in, people's income is now negative 3%. So that means—
I'm just gonna, you heard that right. People's income now in the United States is negative 3%. So you have to, for those that are still employed, remember he shared last week on the show, 24% unemployment in America. For those that are employed, you have to bust your ass. It's no longer make ends meet. I don't even know. What is the adage that comes up with it? It's a bad picture. And it's going to continue to get worse as this economy collapses, and there are things to do. We'll share with you here shortly.
Means they're not keeping up with inflation. They're not keeping up with taxes. People's household income is coming down post-inflation and post-tax. Even though people's incomes might be rising, numbers-wise, but when you compare it to inflation and taxes, the disposable income that they have left, it's negative. So this is thanks to Biden's miraculous plan for our economy, right? It's sick. It's a sick plan, and America's economically is just truly falling apart. So
as we all know, Dr. Elliott has an amazing program where anybody around the world can contact his office. You can get physical silver, and we've shared many times, if you're tuning in for the first time, HSBC, one of the biggest banks in the world, the CEO said 3 weeks ago that they see physical silver going to $100 an ounce. Right now, it's trading just below $20 an ounce. That's because in an inflationary crisis, as Dr. Elliott said, so many other experts have said, I've had Gregory Mannarino have shared his information on the show just last week, that in a debt crisis, everybody moves to great commodities. The commodities they can trust are precious metals. So for those of you, the amazing thing that Dr. Elliott's put together for our audience is you can have a free phone conversation, a consultation with him or his firm. You go to shopthebuddha.com/get silver. So that's the link that'll take you to his website. It's a short URL, www.shopthebuddha.com/get silver. It's all lowercase. It's all right here. And, if you're willing to just simply have a conversation to see what you can do to secure your financial future, or potentially, there's several analysts who have finally shown up and said, we think silver could be up to $500 an ounce in 12 months. I mean, even if they're wrong and it goes to 100, that's a 5 times gain. And here's the thing. Remember, in the RICO cases, which are ongoing right now against JP Morgan Chase and Bank of America, the RICO cases, that's racketeering, organized crime cases, usually used to prosecute crime families, mafia. Well, they're prosecuting the bankster mafia for suppressing the price of gold and silver. Now, remember in SWIFT, the SWIFT banking system, in March of 2022 of this year, they unplugged the country Russia from it. And now what Russia has done, regardless of your political leanings, they, since 2015, have been amassing the greatest reserves of gold on the planet. As a buyer, they've been buying. The greatest buyer of gold on the planet has been the country of Russia. And now they have formalized agreements to create their own currency backed by gold, following the Russian ruble. And the Russian ruble is now the world's reserve currency as it's backed by gold. For months, it has not been the US petrodollar, right? So here's the amazing thing. Wow. You have Brazil, the BRICS countries, right? Brazil, India, China, and now just recently, wow, look at this. Saudi Arabia has signed on and partnered with them. We'll go to that article here in Gold Telegraph in just a moment. So the key thing is, though, is if you buy index funds or ETFs, as Dr. Kirk Elliott has said here on the program many times, if you go there, the paper is potentially worthless because of the RICO case, because they may be reselling the same asset of silver to 5 different people. And then if all 5 people call in their chips to sell it, then there's only that one piece of silver. So that's another rigging that's been going on, as he's been stating. So pretty wild. You need to own physical silver. And also we have it a chance where everybody here who has an IRA or 401k, you have an opportunity to get $10,000 in free silver. And I'll share that with you in just a few moments. Let me continue to go back here though. And you get to see from a global standpoint, all of a sudden, just in the last 9 days, right? Just 2 days prior to the announcement of the 2 queens' death. Remember, there were 2 queens that died at the age of 96 on September 8, a week ago. They were announced, the one in Australia and the one in England. They just so happen to be 96 years of age. Well, take a look at this. If you go to Gregory Manarino's page, you know, just in the last few hours, he said the IMF, International Monetary Fund, warns of a debt explosion as White House celebrates the Inflation Reduction Act. Right? You saw that meme earlier. And the SEC is now warning of a debt market liquidity issues. The economy is cratering faster. There's a key few moments I would like you to listen to what he says with regards to it cratering.
However, this is something I do believe, and it's something that we've been hearing about for a while. So loan delinquencies, it's early, are continuing to rise. People defaulting on their loans. People already, they're suffering. They can't make ends meet. You know this. They're borrowing beyond their eyeballs. In this phenomenon that you and I have talked about, like forever now, prior members of the can't accept the fact that pushed deliberately to the wrong side. What they're doing, these people, what you discussed, they would do, borrowing and then borrowing to obtain the wipe out of an entire class of people. Central banks are going to create an environment where people need or have to struggle. Period. The end. That's it.
Just understand what he said. You have one of the greatest traders who shuns Wall Street just said that the central banks are creating an environment where people are struggling, creating an environment. Last few seconds here.
As inflation gets a lot worse, real wages continue to crater. That is what people are earning based against the actual rate of inflation. We know it's surging out of control. But meanwhile, they're having parties at the White House. You can't make this stuff up if you try to. Anyway.
All right. Well, there you go. That is with Gregory Manarino. Some key bits on the site here. And when the IMF is warning of the debt explosion, Dr. Elliott had shared on our last week, there is $7 quadrillion of global derivatives debt out there that can't be paid back. Or it's just sitting on the sidelines, ready to go. And speaking of the debt trap, into Gregory Mannarino's point here, folks, here's a recent article that just was published last night. How China trap diplomacy will use CBDCs to replace the SWIFT banking system, thereby establishing the digital yuan as a de facto central bank digital currency. This is the cryptocurrency, right? But it's the China one, currency to the fastest growing economies in the world. Here's the first paragraph, and this is really all you need to know. China is trapping African nations into debt. And as part of forgiving, in air quotes, that debt, China requires them to use the Chinese CBDC, the digital yuan, for all international commerce, trade, and finance payments, thereby establishing the digital yuan as the de facto central bank digital currency to the fastest growing economies in the world. Hence, another reason why CBDCs are inevitable. We need to avoid these at all costs. Case in point, what China has been doing with the testing of its citizens back in April and May, and I've shared on the videos on the show, where people have showed up at some of their banks in China to take out money. The banks had locked the doors. They can't get money out. They can't withdraw it. And then they flip the QR code on their phone and say, oh, time for a COVID test. And you need to go home, and the authorities come and sweep you up. And then we saw tanks in front of those banks later on, and people protesting. And even now, just yesterday, in one of the large cities there, people have to daily submit to PCR test. And if you haven't done that, you can't use transportation, you can't use banking, you can't go to the grocery store, because they can flip a switch and they can say, you can't withdraw money and you are worthless, because the government controls it. And now that is the onslaught of CBDC. So we'll forgive your debt. You go here and we control everything about you. Now, I mentioned earlier, what's important is you can get access to up to $10,000 or more of free silver if you have an IRA or 401k. Listen, if you've got 50 grand or more in savings, inflation is putting your money at risk. But thanks to my friends at the gold company, you can still protect your savings with physical gold and silver. Here's the simple thing. You just go to BuddhaLovesGold.com, BuddhaLovesGold.com, and they'll give you $10,000 or more in free silver when you open a qualifying account. So what is anybody waiting for? You actually just have to be willing to share with them some information in terms of you got the 50 grand or more, and they can give you the gold IRA kit as well and ship it to you for free. Now, here's the thing, before we go back to the show, what's really important is we have seen the worlds are moving to, whether it's a central bank or a central bank digital currency, they're backing it with gold and silver bullion. And this is what we've been seeing, trillions of it being gobbled up around the world. All right. So it's important, I think, that everybody has some either on hand or in a depository. But for example, we talk about the United States and we talk about the African nations just now and China. Well, what's going on in Canada? Listen, the ratio on Gold Telegraph, they just published, the ratio of Canadian household debt to income surged to a record 181.7%. Insane, right? Canadian households experienced a decline of almost $1 trillion in net worth in the second quarter of this year. We're talking about a country with roughly 38 million people. And above the age of 18, it's estimated to be about 20-something million people. So here's the thing. For a country that has less the size of the population of California, they, in the second quarter of this year, experienced a wipeout of $1 trillion in net worth. So things are getting very spicy and very crazy. And we're going to take you to the crypto space right now. before we tie it into GESARA, NESARA, and what has been going on. From crypto recently, we just had the merge that was supposed to happen yesterday and today. Coinbase actually suspended any deposits and withdrawals of Bitcoin and Ethereum because they're talking about it. What we're looking now is Caleb and Brown's roundup for this week, where Ethereum, they say, successfully deployed to the last pre-merge update. And the thing is, when you go onto all these cryptos, you see them down, down, down. Bitcoin dropped again today. Ethereum dropped again today. But Luna has actually surged over 200% in the last few days. All right. XRP has kind of stayed on par, on level. All right. We have a whistleblower, if you will. It was in Robert F. Kennedy's Child's Defender network. Just a wonderful, wonderful man. I mean, again, the son of the Bobby Kennedy. And he says, ex-BlackRock manager states the global financial collapse is a mathematical certainty. In an interview with Dr. Joseph Mercola, Edward Dowd, a former equity portfolio manager for BlackRock, explained why he believes the global financial system will collapse within the next 6 to 24 months. We're not saying it may or may not, it will. And with 7 quadrillion in global derivatives debt out there, I mean, how could it not? You've just locked down the world for 2.5 years. You're crushing people with insane amount of inflation. Now, again, you go to buddhalovesgold.com, you get a free gold IRA kit with the potential to get $10,000 more in free silver. If you have an IRA, 401k, or more than 50 grand in savings, anybody who's global has an opportunity to buy physical silver through Dr. Elliott's firm. And here's the thing, when we talk about gold-backed or precious metals-backed currencies, we also want to look back to XRP and what's going on there. There's been so much with the RICO case with precious metals. We've got to come back to the SEC corruption, my opinion, corruption, but at least what's been unveiled with the case the SEC brought against Ripple and all of the collusion and conspiring that has happened between the SEC, JP Morgan Chase, and they've implicated China in the case, as we've heard from Jimmy Valley State on one of our shows here. Listen to these few moments about Ripple, XRP, and the SEC update on this program. Here we are.
What I say, what I'm more looking at is I'm looking at this Ripple lawsuit, but he says Ripple summary judgment motions filed under seal. I don't know if he means $12 if Ripple wins. I don't know what he's getting at there, but it looks like he's looking out towards July. And I would assume that means if nothing happens with the case, but who knows? Not my chart says. Now, this is a thought that I was talking to somebody about this on the phone. Actually, it was my father, the official father of the Digital Asset Investor channel. And I was saying, now just imagine with all these, I mean, it's not a question. I mean, there's been criminal conflicts that have been proven, the whole Ethereum free pass thing. If you're Ripple's attorneys and you're on the phone with the SEC talking about a settlement, I mean, you've got them dead to rights now. And so and this is just me talking, I'm no attorney, but if I'm the attorney, I'm saying, now listen, folks, you know, we've got the video, you know, we've got the timeline, all this stuff that's been put out on social media, you know that where this trail leads. So we either resolve this thing in some kind of reasonable way. You shouldn't have sued us in the first place. You don't settle this thing and resolve it in some kind of reasonable way. We're going to sue the SEC. We're going to sue, and I won't name names, but we're going to start throwing law. That's the way the world really works. That's what, if I'm a Ripple attorney, that's what I'm saying. And you're not talking about some small amount of money, folks. When an organization like that's involved in potential criminal conflicts, you're talking about a freaking can of worms they don't want any part of. Because if that...
Now, exactly, with that can of worms, I'll share with you here what Jimmy Valley had stated recently on the Blockchain Billionaire cast. This is exactly where he thinks it could potentially go. $50,000 per coin. I'm holding the microphone here, so I got to go back and forth from the laptop to myself. So imagine that if you're trading right around 34 pennies, 34 pennies for the XRP digital asset, and then all of a sudden it shoots to 50 grand per coin because of what we're seeing. Absolutely, in my opinion, not an attorney, not a financial advisor, none of that, just an independent sovereign soul. Whew. The stuff that's come out in that courtroom shows a lot of criminal collusion going on here. So if you're new to digital asset investing and you're based globally, you can go to Bitrue, which is a global exchange that has XRP. As we have found everywhere in the United States and Canada, the exchanges aren't carrying it. Now we know that Canada is a 100% communist country because of its policies. I'm speaking to you as a Canadian. It's a 100% communist country because they're taking away our property. They've legalized fentanyl. They're throwing people in jail, stampeding them, running them down, arresting them without cause. Starting to sound like everything has turned. Well, here's the thing. It has. You've got to protect yourself, right? Because nobody's coming to save you except yourself. And when you unite and you stand up, one of those ways is doing what you can, being informed, and taking some action. And if it behooves you, you can get up to $3,000 in tradable rewards on Bitrue. If you go to shop.debuda.com/get3K rewards, that's all down in the description in the body of this video below. So you can check that out. This, at least, is where I have found you can get the XRP token, because during the SEC suit, no surprise, the government and the banks have said in the exchanges, we're just not going to let you trade that. But here's Bitcoin, here's Ethereum, which we're seeing they continue to prop up. And in my opinion, and what everything we've seen come out in that case, it's freaking criminal, absolutely criminal. That's what that host was alluding to right there. I've got the image here on Russia partnering with Saudi Arabia. All right, again, regardless of what you think is happening, it's happening under your notices, right? And this is what they're doing because they were pushed out. So they're creating their own exchange. Now, if you don't think that they're, saying they're not affected, well, take a look at this. Just came out a week ago from the Insider. JP Morgan, Deutsche Bank, and other major European banks are turning off hot water, stopping fountains, preparing diesel generators as Russia chokes the energy supply. They created the crisis because they are the ones in SWIFT who unplugged Russia, right? They're the ones who unplugged Russia from the SWIFT banking system. So just be very mindful and use your discernment of what is going on. Now, I said we get to NESARA, GESARA, to share this article here on Market Watch from August 31st. Okay, this is Danske Bank. Danske Bank forgives debts for 90,000 customers. All right, and here are the first two paragraphs. It says that 90,000 Danish customers that owe the bank money will have their debt balance wiped clean after discovering errors in the bank's debt collection systems. The Copenhagen bank, Danske, became aware of systemic errors in its debt collection systems in 2019, has been working to correct past mistakes to compensate affected customers. But as remediation has progressed, new issues have emerged, extending the timeline for resolution potentially beyond 2024. The bank said that timeframe is unsatisfactory. Forgive them all. Forgive all debts. Does that not sound like NESARA, GESARA to you? And folks, for those of you tuning in who don't know what NESARA, GESARA is, it stands for the National Economic Security and Reformation Act. You replace the N with the G, well, that's the Global Economic Security and Reformation Act. Go ahead, do some diligence, take some interesting deep dives down that path and what it means. But that is a very, very large belief in many communities as to why Kennedy was shot, because he wanted to put the United States on the silver. They wanted to put the US dollar currency note, print it as the US dollar, not under the 1871 Act from the Vatican City and the City of London, and do it on the petrodollar. Interesting. Silver. So I wanted to bring in GESARA, well, NESARA for the nation. And here's the thing, on Fox News just a few months ago, it sounds like they were announcing GESARA. It's slowly being leaked. Perhaps also NESARA in the United States. Have a listen to this as we close off this segment of this program.
So this group of people that could have their debt wiped out is larger than the total sum of the country's credit card and auto loan debt. So we're going to take one of these directives and say, you know what? No more auto payments. Yes, loans, auto loans, we're going to wipe away your credit card bill.
I think what they would say is that you guys are thinking too small. And that they want to give people monthly stipends. And I think a lot of this emerged from the pandemic.
Wow, pretty interesting. So I feel we are seeing this happen. There's been a lot of signs as a marker of the pronouncement of the Queen's deaths. Obviously, the Elizabeth in London was a lot more prominent than the Queen in Australia dying, announced on the same day, same age, right? Interesting. September 8th, 1776, the Liberty Bell was rung in the United States. September 8th, 1997, Time magazine had the cover of Princess Diana's death on September 8th, 2022. 2 queens pronounced dead. All these interesting occurrences happening. So I think the math is pretty easy for people to figure out. Bringing it back to yourself, though. All right. And if you'd like, you can go to check out this gentleman's channel, Digital Asset Investor, where he says and believes it's the great wealth transfer of gold, XRP, and money versus debt. I tend to align with that attitude, with what is going on right now. And again, you can see everything here in our description for getting up to $10,000 in free silver if you have over 50 grand in savings in IRA or 401k now. Go to BuddhaLovesGold.com. You can tap into and buy silver from anywhere around the world at the PhD, 2 times PhD, sovereign economist, Dr. Elliott's firm. When you go to shopthebuddha.com/getsilver, or heck, you can get up to $3,000 in rewards at BitTrue, and you just go to the link on the screen. Ladies and gentlemen, stay frosty, take action to protect yourself. At least you're aware of some of the information that's going on out there. I wish you many blessings, great day, and much prosperity to you and your family. Please like and do share, subscribe, enable notifications on any of these platforms, whether you're listening to the podcast or you're watching the broadcast. All the best. Stay tuned for Saturday with Lewis Herms coming up, and many blessings, much prosperity. Get some. Ciao. Thanks for joining us on the program, ladies and gentlemen. Please like, follow, subscribe, share this with 9 friends and family. And of course, if you enjoy our blinged Buddha firing red pills from his 9mm, let us know.